In this video, we are going to talk about the catch or declare rule. All right, so in the previous video, we talked about checked exceptions and said that those are exceptions that Java forces the programmer to handle one way or the other. And so related to that, right, is the catch or declare rule. And the catch or declare rule says that if a method might throw a checked exception, it must either be handled with a try catch block within the method or declared in the method header with a throws clause. All right, so this throws clause is new. It is not related to, or it's different than the throw statement that we talked about before, where you can throw your own exception. That that the throw without the s causes an exception to be thrown. Throws is used differently. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at this catch or declare.java. So in this file, I have a very simple program. There's three methods. There's this main method, and in the main method, I have two method calls: catch example and declare example. All right. In those two methods, I just do something that I know will cause a checked exception, and that is with file reader, just like in the previous video we showed that. Okay, so this statement right here can possibly cause a checked exception to be thrown. Same thing here. All right, and so when I go to compile this, it's not going to compile. All right, so you see I get that same message that we got in the previous video. It says unreported exception, file not found exception must be caught or declared to be thrown. Okay. All right, so again, there are two ways of handling that. You can either catch it, and that's what we've done in the previous video. So what we would do is just put this in a try catch block. And it throws file not found exception. And I am just going to display a message. That's it on this, so nothing fancy. So so here we had that error on 13, line 13. We have that same problem where we have that file not found exception. It cannot find symbol, so we need to add the import for that. And just to show you, you could just do it like this, where you do import java.io.asterisk. All right, and it fixes that error about file not found exception. So that's an example where you catch. This constructor, right, might throw a file not found exception, right, which is a checked exception, and therefore that means that this catch example might also throw that same file not found exception, right? It'll get propagated through to this method. Okay, so we either have to catch it or declare it. In this case, we caught it. We added our own try and catch block. Okay, so now you can see we're still getting that other error right here. Okay, unreported exception file not found. It must be caught or declared to be thrown. Again, same reason, right? File reader it's possible that method will throw a file not found exception. That's a checked exception, so Java is going to force you to deal with it. So the other way you can deal with it besides catching it, right, is declare it. And when you declare it, you put on the method header throws and then the name of the exception, file not found exception. Okay, so that is the alternative to this. All right, so basically what you're doing here is just warning people down the line, right, that hey, this method, it might throw a file not found exception. So it's kind of like, in a sense, passing the buck. All right, let me compile it and show you that error is that error is gone. Okay, so you can see that error about, let's see, let me comment this out so we can, all right, so if I compile without that throws clause, you can see the errors on line 25, okay? So I decide, hey, I am not going to put the try and catch block here. I am just going to use the throws clause. You can see now the error will no longer be on line 25. It will be on line 8 over here, okay? So that cleared up that error with line 25. Now the error is in line 8. So what's going on here? Well, when you declare, when you put throws and then the name of the exception it might throw, that passes the buck to the method that was calling this method here. Now it's saying, hey, this method call might cause a file not found exception. So you would have to decide how you, up here, how you want to handle that. Do you want to catch it or do you want to declare it? If I declare it, I could put throws file not found exception here. And you can see that it works, okay? So again, I have declared it. So when you put throws file not found exception, it basically calls, it passes the buck. And if there's some other method, right, that calls your method, then they will have to implement it. So now why would you do that instead of putting try and catch, okay? Well, one good reason is because maybe you are writing some code that you want somebody else, you know, your main intention is for other people to use that code, like API or something like that. And so, and you don't want to dictate to them how they handle that exception, okay? You just are warning them, hey, there's going to be an exception thrown out of here, so you need to handle it, all right? So you're declaring it, but you're not forcing them to handle it in a certain way. If you want to handle it in a certain way, you can certainly do that by putting the try and catch block here, okay? So for instance, up here, instead of declaring, I could have added another try catch block here and tried to handle the exception this way. I've got to handle it somehow, either by catching it, right, or declaring it. And so, but you have to do one of those two things. All right, so that's the catch or declare rule. If your method throws an exception, right, and it's a checked exception, then you're either going to have to add the try and catch block yourself, or you're going to have to declare by putting throws in whatever exception it's throws. And then if some other method, one of your own or somebody else's, calls that method, then they're going to have to decide, should I catch it or should I declare it, right? And so you can kind of do it either way you want to. And so you can see it runs. If I run this, it's not going to work very well because there's no words.txt here to find. So in both cases, it throws the exception and triggers these messages here. All right, so that is the catch or declare rule for checked exceptions.